There is something haunting about the silence after a crash, the kind of silence that trembles with the memory of sound. The kind of quiet that follows a storm, where you step outside and realize the world is not as you remembered it. I have felt that silence with Bitcoin. I have stood on the edge of hope, watched it surge, and I have watched it fall, watched as hands that gripped too tightly now open in resignation. Before we lose ourselves in the labyrinth of markets and numbers, can I gently ask you something? If you find even a sliver of yourself reflected in my journey, if these confessions and contemplations feel like echoes of your own, would you subscribe to Crypto 101 Central? This space, carved out of candor and uncertainty, only grows more vibrant with your energy. And, if you wish, let the bell be your companion, tap it, so each pulse of this ongoing story reaches you as it unfolds. I release these thoughts, sometimes in the quiet hours, sometimes in the chaos, always with an unsteady hand and a steady heart. Bitcoin, the word itself is both promise and admonition. Once, nearly gleaming at 97,000, it danced on the precipice of glory, and the world watched with the insatiable hunger of a child before a sweet. That was January, the beginning of this year. Now, those numbers feel like a mirage, a shimmering on a desert road. The markets shifted, no, they contracted, not unlike a gasp drawn sharply and held painfully in the chest. I wrote then of the cyclical waves, the swelling hope and the inevitable recoil. But this month, my gaze widened to the world beyond Bitcoin. A new report, a macro risk memo, 26 pages, words stretched between anxiety and invitation, sits quietly online, free for those who wish to read, whether as a scroll on a website or as a PDF nestled in your inbox. There's no cost for truth, not here. If your mind is hungry for the shape of things, for stories told outside the fevered dream of crypto alone, I offer it with open hands. I spoke, too, of bearing witness to markets beyond the digital, of risk and reward, of the kaleidoscopic shifting of asset classes. Because, in a world where the sky itself seems to move, it is foolish to fix your eyes only on one star. Yet my feet are firmly planted in these shifting sands. Bitcoin remains the axis around which my thoughts revolve. There was a moment, still raw in my memory, when Bitcoin ceased to find sanctuary in what was once the bull market support band. The numbers mattered, the 20-week simple moving average entwined with the 21-week exponential. Technicals, yes, but loaded with emotional gravity, a resistance band, no longer support, like a friend whose arms become a wall instead of shelter. In the midsection of the year, Bitcoin has this tragic tendency to slam against resistance, a pattern both painful and strangely poetic. Look, I know these are not just lines on a chart. They are stories, they are fear, they are longing. Sometimes we transcend them, sometimes we're trapped beneath their weight. When Bitcoin tries to reclaim, to surge, sometimes it wins, holds its ground, only to be spurned again as the seasons turn. It is an old dance, and I, too, have forgotten the steps at times. I trace the candles, week by week, a language of sorrow and hope. February brings its lows, March emerges as a fickle promise of local highs. Each year, the rhythm repeats, like a song you can never quite remember, except the aching chorus. This year is not so different. A long wick down, a soft-bellied candle body, a repeat of yesteryears. Does it comfort me or haunt me? I cannot say. The parallels with years like 2022, I see them, but I am not so naive as to expect the dance to play out beat for beat. It is strange, isn't it, how hope nestles into the cracks of every downfall. Maybe, after all this erosion, a countertrend rally will bloom, perhaps some brief resurrection in early March. I have seen it, February's wounds giving way to March's fleeting heights. But to chase such turns and reversals is, if I may be honest, a fool's pursuit. Who can time the turning of the wind? Not I, not anyone with honesty in their bones. I do not pretend to trade the rhythm of inevitability. My objective is not mastery over the tides, but a recognition of the ocean as it is, sometimes storm, sometimes lull, sometimes leading me to shores I did not choose. There are voices that rage in the darkness, that shame you for calling a winter, for naming a bear market when all want to believe in spring. Zealots and price cheerleaders bark into their own echo chambers on Twitter, as if the proper incantation could summon the bull market by force of will. But I will not lie, not to myself, and not to you. Every asset has its seasons. To admit the winter is not to betray the spring. It is easy, they say, the drawdown, the fall from grace by half. The first 50%, that's the clean wound. It's the deeper cut that troubles, the slow bleed of disbelief, the hope for reversal even as the numbers wither. In past cycles, it was much the same. Grievous drop, a slow decay, and then, perhaps, a fierce surge before the final capitulation. So I say this plainly. This is a bear market. The path back to that shimmering band of hope, the bull market support, now slammed into resistance, is clouded. There may be fleeting moments above, maybe a weekly close, maybe a wick that teases salvation. But when I peer into the charts, what stares back is not the light of resurgence, but the stubborn dullness of persistence, of repeated patterns refusing to break on our timetable. If you have felt the urge to pretend, to contort optimism into certainty, know that you are not alone. I have tried to reason against the waves, to believe what I wished rather than what was. But the market is not a stage for daydreams. It is a mirror, and it never flatters. Those who could not imagine pain at the top now lash out at the bottom, anger a shield against regret. My task, as I see it, is simply to name what I see, to be a witness. And if this witness's voice resonates, now at the halfway point, would you let it be seen, a like on this video, a small signal in the noise that you, too, are journeying through this night? I want to hear your story as well, so let your thoughts become fingerprints in the comments. Together, we piece together the mosaic of what it means to live through a bear market, not as spectators, but as participants, as wounded dreamers and stubborn survivors. Sometimes I think about averages, how the market this year is a reflection, almost painfully precise, of those that came before. 2014, 2018, 2022, the same pattern of hope, crash, and lingering malaise, a river that never quite runs dry. We are not outliers. We are living the script fate has written for this asset, walking the tightrope between conformity and rebellion. Is it tragic? Is it comforting? I suppose the answer shifts with the tides of my own heart. At times I rage at the slowness, the grinding wheel of months spent waiting for something decisive. Sometimes I clutch the hope that this year may surprise us, that the bottom may arrive with uncharacteristic mercy. October, I whisper, is my base case, a line drawn in the future. But would I truly be startled if May became our nadir? Not really. The market is an inscrutable oracle, and I have learned to follow one step at a time. We look for signs, for omens in the numbers. Some, mistakenly, turn to measures like M2, believing it will reveal the market's hidden hand. But it is a false prophet, whispering comfort where there should be caution. I said as much in my latest breakdown. The real signals lie elsewhere, embedded in the pulse of market structure, the ebb and flow of liquidity not so easily codified. In the end, I am left circling the same truth I began with. There is always a bull market somewhere, even as winter deepens here. The drumbeat of opportunity never ceases. It simply shifts, elusive but real for those willing to look. So, as our journey together today draws to a close, let me ask, are you ready to keep wandering these dark corridors with me? Subscribe, if you have not already, to Crypto 101 Central. Give the video a thumbs up if it has stirred something within you. Leave a comment, share your hopes, your wounds, your wisdom. Because in this place, we do not trade only in coins and charts, but in courage and confession. And when you are ready for more, when curiosity gnaws at you, or loneliness whispers, I'll be here. Explore the other videos, follow the bell's gentle chime. There is no final word, only the next question, the next map to draw. Until then, be well, be watchful, and may we discover together what lies, still restless, on the far side of this bear market.